Hello and welcome back to the Avalon Answer webinar series part two. We're going to go through and just continue on with expand your market. We thank you for those that have been a part of part one of the series, and we look forward to doing more of the same as part one. We're going to introduce ourselves again, and then we'll dive right back into the material. So I am your host. My name is Michael Gibson. I'm the sales director here at Fortress Power. My co-host is Mr. Brad. He's our Southeast Regional Sales Manager. Unlike the other webinars that we've had in the past, this is not an over technical webinar. This is trying to help you sell Avalon and all that type of stuff. So, Brad, I know I said your name, but I want to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself.
Yep. So for those of you who weren't on here last week, my name is Brad Ure. I'm the Southeast Regional Manager here at Fortress Power. I started in solar back in 2016, right in that time frame, and I've done everything from in-home sales to helping run operations. So I've done a little bit of everything, and excited to talk about a couple of the different elements of the Avalon today.
Well, thank you, and we're going to get started on my webinar. And I just want to verify, Brad, can you see my screen, the Avalon answer in the background? I just want to make sure everything is there before I get started.
Yep.
Okay, so we're going to jump in. So let me get to today's presentation here. Here we go. So the Avalon answer is a three-part webinar series. Last week we spoke on differentiation, expand your market is part two. The next week, we'll talk about streamline your installation. So, in our conversation, just as a recap on differentiation, some of the things that we brought out was with the Avalon battery system, number one, is one manufacturer. So, that's a key point. The other thing is you got a 15-year warranty, you have high life cycles. Modular design is another thing that we talked about. And we talked about how having a modular design can help you with basically making your installs a little easier because you don't have to worry about the weight of carrying these devices, and then also expanding the Avalon system in terms of if you wanted to go to another size past the 4.9 kWh, the blocks are 4.9, so you could easily go from, for easy math, from a 20 to a 25 kW system rather quickly. The other thing that we pointed out was DC coupled, the efficiency that you get with having a DC coupled system. Also, the ability to AC couple. So those were some of the highlights that we talked about in differentiation. Brad, is there anything that you would like to add on differentiation?
No, I mean, I think you covered a lot of the technical features that kind of make the Avalon a little bit differently. Basically, if you were to create a battery system in a lab where you pull some of the things that you like most about every major manufacturer's battery brand, you'd end up with a system that's really, really close to the Avalon, which is what makes the Avalon kind of stand out and allows you to not only present a different product than a lot of the competition, but also have a product that can stand up from a technical standpoint against anybody in the competition as well.
So what we have on your screen right now is a quick overview of the Avalon. One thing that we mentioned in differentiation is the smart energy panel. The smart energy panel is featured on the left side. It is what we call the special sauce, the thing that makes the Avalon go is the smart energy panel. That's one of the big differentiators of that. So, Brad, talk to us about the Avalon system in this overview. Just run through this picture for our audience.
Yeah, so this picture here is a recent install that we had of the Avalon system. If you want to go to the next picture, it might actually help us kind of explain the system. Or next one, we can come back to this one. But this is just kind of a basic one-line diagram. In the middle, you'll notice the inverter. So you have the inverter that can come as a 7.6 or an 11.4. Then down in the bottom left, you'll see the battery. You'll see kind of little lines that separate the battery. So each one of this is actually a stackable battery, and every battery is 4.9 kilowatt hours. It's got all of your active heating, passive cooling, everything that you'd expect in a high quality, high end battery. Um, LFP chemistry. It's built very safe, active fire suppression. Once again, everything you'd expect. So that ties directly into the inverter. And then the inverter will tie into the smart energy panel. And the smart energy panel is the brains of the operation. So this is where the smart circuits are. So you don't need any type of sub panel or anything like that. This is where the 200 amp pass through happens. So even if you're a 7.6 inverter, you can send it straight into 200 amp pass through. Make sure that you're shedding the loads that you need to make sure that that homeowner is getting the best possible experience. And then, down or if we look at this, the grid goes into the smart energy panel. So you go straight from the grid into the smart energy panel, straight through built-in CTs, kind of save you some time and energy of service calls, truck rolls, going back to fix CTs, stuff like that. And then it actually gives you a place to land your PV breaker. So you can land your PV breaker in the smart energy panel. You can do an EV charger breaker. You can even do a generator charger breaker. So, if you have a customer looking to upgrade to a electric vehicle, anything like that, they don't have to do a sub panel. They can land the breaker straight in the smart energy panel. Now, the smart energy panel, it connects to our app, and so people can monitor their system remotely, check their production, do whatever they need, just like a lot of the other monitoring apps on the a lot of the other monitoring platform apps that are out there. This one's just a little bit different because it's going to give you that load control during those power outage situations to make sure that the customer is able to run those loads that matter most.
Thank you, Brad, for that great overview. And this is part two of the Avalon webinar series. And the focus of this webinar is expand your market. We just went through a brief overview. We're going to keep going forward. And we're talking about expand your markets. So Brad is going to expound about how does the Avalon help you expand your market. This is some data that I'm allow him to run through and just kind of explain it because again, we want to help you sell more energy storage systems. Go ahead, Brad.
Yeah, so we talk to a lot of installers here on the manufacturer side, of course, and one thing we've noticed pretty much nationwide is that year over year growth is down in pretty much all of the markets. So right here, it's just the 10 top markets in the United States. This data was provided by Ohm Analytics. They track permit data across the country, and so you can see this is for the last 12 months. The I guess 12-month over 12-month growth or decline. So we're seeing California was 8.9%. That's expected to be a lot higher this year with NEM 3.0 coming into the market or NEM 3.0 taking effect. New York had a slight bump last year. That was mostly policy driven. Texas and Florida, you can see, really took the brunt of a lot of the market decrease. But even Arizona, Maryland, Massachusetts, Nevada, all large decreases. And so naturally that begs the question, what's going on? I think a lot of you probably already have some really good takes on why the market's headed in this direction presently. Everything from raising interest rates to dealer fees to trust issues in the industry, different elements that may happen in certain individual markets. Very policy driven environment, as many of you guys know. And so if we're looking at this though, and we see there's this shrinking market, naturally that means everybody's trying to compete for the same customer base that's shrinking statistically. There are just fewer people looking at going at solar. And so this provides some unique opportunities to kind of take a different path and approach the market in a different way. So most solar companies, not all, some of you guys have been around for a really long time, but most solar companies are used to year over year growth. Most people were born kind of in the growth phase of the solar industry, and a lot of these numbers, nobody's experienced a 12-month decline like we've seen in the last 12 months. And so once again, that's one of the challenges that we face, but that opens the door for some different opportunities and kind of helps us find ways to get creative and innovative a little bit to grow your market outside of your traditional maybe methods or ways of growing the market or attacking the market.
So I know we're going to dig a little deeper into this, but I hate to be Captain Obvious. We are a battery energy storage solution company, and I'm looking at a lot of red. So, what is the motivation for someone that's on this call right now? How do we help them? How does the Avalon help them? We're going to dive deeper into this subject, and we're going to talk about who's actually winning during this time. Brad, would you like me to progress the slide or not?
Yeah, go ahead and move forward here. So, oh, go ahead, Michael.
So again, just to reiterate, we're talking about expand your market and how can the Avalon help installers expand their market. As you've seen, there was a lot of red, but inside of that red, there is another message that is happening. There is more going on than meet the eye. And there actually are installers winning, even though there are red in the States. And we're going to dive deep into that topic today. Go ahead, Brad.
So if we parsed through a lot of the other data that we have access to, we can see and we can find installers that actually grew last year, even in like Florida and Texas, the markets that probably had the largest decline, well, did have the largest decline in year over year installs. And so as we've gone through the data, we found some of the things that these installers are doing to win in their markets. And quite honestly, as the manufacturer, we want to see all of our installers win. So we are doing some work on our side through some of the product innovation with the Avalon system. We have a revamped training portal that Michael will go over later, and then we are really pushing doing some on-site remote sales trainings with all of our installers. So if you're currently one of our authorized installers, I want to take a minute, invite you guys to reach out to your regional sales rep and have them come in to do a battery training with your sales team. Because we can see as we kind of comb through the data, one interesting trend has started to emerge, and that's that battery installs have actually been going up slightly despite a decline in overall solar permits. And so we know there's this interest in storage, and for years and years and years, the technology has kind of lagged behind, I guess you could say, where people's expectations were. So I remember going in home in 2016 selling solar, and I'd be bidding against two or three other companies, and one or two of the other companies told them that their solar would work even without a battery when the power went out. Now, as all of you guys know, especially in 2016, there wasn't a reliable product on the market that would function when the power went out. And even today, even the options that still can operate to an extent when the power goes down, it's very, very minimal power. But back in 2016, we had a lot of hesitancies adopting batteries because costs were really high and functionality was really low. If you were running a battery, you might only get 15 amps of backup power when a homeowner is really looking to back up an air conditioner. Naturally, if you only have a battery that can spit out six or support a 16 amp load, and that customer is expecting that air conditioner to turn on when the power goes out, that's going to be a very disappointed customer at the end of the day. But what we've seen is, and this isn't just Fortress Power. A lot of our competitors have done the same. We're kind of merging towards the same technical specs of power output, or being able to stack and get close to these, 50 amps continuous. That's a pretty common thing that we're seeing out there over and over and over is, 32 to 50 amp standard with the ability to stack higher and higher for backup loads. We're starting to see some of these power outputs for continuous power get higher and higher. And so we really wanted to make sure that we stood out and we weren't just another battery brand, because we want to see you guys installers win and not just be commoditized by your clients. And so the Avalon actually allows installers to branch out into new markets and solve new problems. So as a sales rep, your goal is to go in, find a problem that the homeowner is experiencing, and then present a solution to that problem. And so for the longest time, in a lot of markets, and I remember being a sales rep for years, pretty much up until about 2021 or 2022, I would avoid selling batteries. I would avoid them like the plague because they would complicate my sell. I'd have to figure out, loads and demands and all sorts of things. And so I just stayed away from batteries altogether to make sure that I had the cleanest sell possible and I could just get on to my next sell. And I would go in and I really wasn't selling solar most of the time. I was selling payments. So I'd go in and the problem that I would look for is I'd try and get the customer to express their pain around how much they're paying the utility and how it's been going up over and over and over, and then show them the solar payment and say, look, here's a new lower solar payment. Do this instead of that, and it's going to fix that pain point. It's going to fix that problem for you. Now, through those years, interest rates were low, things were pretty good, the market was rolling, everybody was experiencing growth, and everybody was selling the same way. And so that bill swap model really helped solar get entrenched mainstream. But now that we're at this point with finance fees on the rise, with interest rates on the rise, and a lot of utilities were unable to make the bill swap model make sense because their solar payment might be the same or higher than what they're currently paying the utility. And so with the Avalon, as this bill swap problem becomes smaller and smaller for the consumer, it's our job to build value in other ways. And this is where the Avalon can help us build value in other ways. Now, you guys have listened to me drone on a little bit. So, Michael, maybe you could talk a little bit about how the smart energy features can help installers attack their market in a slightly different way and solve a new problem for their homeowner.
So I'm gonna go back a couple slides here just to jump around. So when we talk about the smart energy panel and dealing with how does the Avalon really help you expand your markets, we see battery attachment rates are actually going up because a key word is solve more problems. How can you build a more durable business with the Avalon smart energy panel? A word that is used a lot is whole home backup, whole home access. What does that really mean to a homeowner, and how do I really take advantage of it? So, one of the things that Brad mentioned was an air conditioner. So if you have an air conditioner that is requiring 40 amps, that's what you need to run your air conditioner. And if your critical load panel or your sub panel, whichever word you want to use, your islanded panel is only giving you 50 amp capacity. If you take 50 amps and then you have 40 amps, how do I help the customer back up other things? And this is where the load shedding feature of the smart energy panel does give you an advantage. Now, you may say, well, I see other people giving me this type of advantage, but I'm going to say there are some differences. So, when you look at this smart energy panel, and I know I'm on this diagram here, one of the features that we talked about as a differentiator is being able to land these loads here. So, when you want to back up a generator, you can put the generator breaker in here, but now you have the ability through the smart circuits to determine when that load is being accessed. What does that mean? Generally speaking, when you have a two-pole load or a power circuit load, that load is generating what we call inrush current. So essentially, it takes more ampacity to start the motor of your generator, to start your heavy appliances to get them running. So you get high surge currents. So when you have load shifting, what that does, a load management, it allows you to manipulate the ramp up time when that item is going to start. So now that high inrush current doesn't affect the other things that you're backing up. So this is how having a smart energy panel helps the consumer now manage loads more efficiently because those two pole power circuits, as we like to call them, do have high inrush currents. So you mitigate that fact by doing load shifting and load management. So now you can expand your business because the homeowner actually can back up more big appliances in the home and has more convenience. So when we talk about an air conditioner, that is a convenience to have. Or things like a salt pump, things of that nature that we say during a power outage, that is something that we want to have because we don't want our basement flooded and things of that nature. But now you can actually have that sump pump, and you can have your living room, and you can have your bedroom, and you can have all these things and have real good access to them because you're now able to manage the load and shift some of that ampacity when things are starting. So that's one of the ways that it helps you expand your market. Now, when we talk about installers winning, because they're providing more battery opportunities, the people that are actually winning are the ones that are solving more problems. So you mentioned swapping payments. We mentioned last time the solar coaster. Dive a little bit deeper into the to that, Brad, when we talk about bill swaps and how does solving more problems, how does that eliminate that for the customer? How can we help them with that?
Yeah, so the more problems we can teach our sales reps to address, the more durable of a business we can build. And so what I mean by that is if our sales reps only know how to go in and sell a customer who's experiencing one problem, and that's why is my bill so high, then our business is now not very durable because it's at the whims of policymakers, right? Tax credits will affect it. Um, Interest rates will affect it. Dealer fees will affect it. There will be all of these outside elements that'll affect our business that make it so that we're really on this solar coaster, so that every time there's a policy change, every time there's a net metering change, every time there's an interest rate bump, all of a sudden our sales reps feel it because they're only solving that one problem for their client. So, and like I said, in the past, I remember when I started at a Colorado installer, I was probably back in 2020 or somewhere in there. I remember thinking, I'm going to do solar different this time. I'm going to pitch a battery on every single home, and I'm going to lead with a battery option. And I made it about 6 months, and that's because what I was selling wasn't meeting the expectations of the homeowners. So what I mean by that is I was going in, and if they were spending a fair amount more money, I was either giving them 16 or 32 amps of emergency power, and to get to 32, it was a pretty exponential, price jump. So I really wasn't addressing any true problem for them because they wanted that 40 amp air conditioner on. And so now that the technology has moved further along, we're actually in a point where we can meet the expectation of the customer. Like Michael was saying, we can do this load management during the power outages to make sure that that inrush isn't hitting all at the same time, to make sure that if they want to back up their air conditioner, it can kick on. And then later on, if they want to go and use their microwave, it's not going to shut down their house for, and do the reset thing and all of that fun stuff. And so we're actually able through the load management, we're actually able to hit these customer expectations. And then in addition to that, the Avalon, we can stack inverter capacity, we can stack battery capacity. So for those clients that have really high expectations, we can really meet those in a really creative and more affordable way because we don't have to add batteries at 10 or 14 kilowatt hours at a time. We can add batteries at 4.9 kilowatt hour intervals. We can add inverter capacity at 7,600 watt intervals. So we have this flexibility to help and meet their demands. So if we tie this back and say, okay, so what problem are we solving? Really, it allows reps to go in and solve, what happens when my power goes out. I want emergency power. Why do those customers want emergency power? And then how, we can give them different profiles so that it's not just when my power goes out, it's how can I have power during a brownout? Because we can have a profile that tells the system how to behave during a brownout, and this customer can make sure that they're running their air conditioner. Or if they're in Texas and Florida, which are both big hurricane markets, and we know about the grid instability in Texas, we can address those problems directly, and we can say this is going to be how you're going to manage your power during a hurricane situation. You're probably going to shed that air conditioner because you only have 20 kilowatt hours of storage, and you want to make sure that lasts. And then since the Avalon is DC coupled, I mean, it can be AC coupled, but if it's done DC coupled, the inverter is also doubling as the PV inverter. So it brings you savings, making the premium to go battery more affordable. so you can solve more problems in a more affordable way. So we can start looking at, why is my electric bill so high? We can start to address that with solar and battery. What happens when my power goes out for a brownout? How do I keep, how do I keep my power on for extended blackouts, like during hurricanes or other natural disasters? How do I protect myself from grid instability? The Avalon, it has an answer for all these questions. And then in addition to that, how can I better understand and use my energy? So with the Avalon, you're able to give customers that data as to how they're using that energy, and that starts to solve problems for you. So that when you get that phone call from your customer in a year and a half, and they say, why do I still have a power bill? You can actually evaluate their loads, how much energy they're using, and make sure you give them guidance on how to better utilize and use their energy.
So another solution that I want to point out, and again, this is us having a conversation, is to give you how can I sell this product when I'm sitting in front of a homeowner? How can I make a better investment in an energy storage solution? So Brad mentioned, brownouts. He mentioned, hurricane. One critical feature that may get lost is that with the Avalon, you actually can communicate Bluetooth with the devices. So let's say there is a major storm and Wi-Fi signals may be out. With the Avalon, you actually can talk to devices Bluetooth between the three parts of the main system. So that is a critical piece because we know that Wi-Fi instability happens during catastrophic events, whether that's a hurricane, whether that's an earthquake, whether that's a tornado. All these things are man-made disasters that can happen and interfere with that cellular communication, but you still can be able to communicate with the devices having that Bluetooth capability. So you have two ways to communicate with the devices. So that's one way that having that connectivity helps you and gives you, I guess, a little bit more peace of mind. Also, let's talk about future proofing. So when you have a system like the Avalon battery, what type of solutions are you able to provide to a homeowner? I don't know if any of you watched the Super Bowl, but if you did, you probably saw a commercial for an electrical vehicle. So if you have someone that's sitting on the side for the traditional vehicle that we use, and they're basically saying, I want to have an energy storage system. I don't have electrical vehicle today, then what type of energy storage solution can I get that incorporates that into my batteries storage? So having the flexibility to be able to now manage large loads, to be able to do things for the future in terms of adding EV chargers, or to bridge the gap between the past. So if you have a small generator that you want to incorporate into your system, having that flexibility now gives you different markets. So if you had somebody that had a market of, hey, I was on generator, I want to use that a little bit less, I want to be a little bit more responsible with the environment, or I just don't like the noise, I don't like the maintenance. Now you have an energy storage solution that can help you in that market. If you have a market that I want to expand and go into the future, I want it reliable because I'm looking at my vehicle, because there's a lot of government regulations that's basically saying you need to change your cars to EV. Now you have a solution that can help you in that market. So when we call it the Avalon answer, because we're providing answers to potential situations that may arise and now or in the future. So when we talk about the Avalon being different. We talk about the Avalon helping you expand your market. One thing, it gets you off the solar coaster. How else can the Avalon provide savings to a homeowner or to an installer, Brad?
Yeah, so a lot of that's a loaded question there, Michael. We're going to cover, I'm going to save part of it for next time. So we're going to talk about streamlining your installation on the next webinar. And we'll talk about streamlining operations as well. And that's where a lot of the savings on the installer side is going to come. Between reducing service calls, reducing components, different things like that. We'll cover that on the next webinar. But as
Okay,
far as, oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, so just dive a little deeper in expanding your market and some of the additional benefits that the Avalon can bring.
Well, and I think you touched on a lot of it there, Michael, and said it pretty well, because the Avalon it answers the age-old question that a lot of solar installers have had is to how do we recapture income from existing clientele? I've been a part of a few different solar installer organizations, and we tried everything from panel cleaning to maintenance plans to I mean, you name it, we tried it. And unfortunately, whether it be poor execution on our part or just, not the market supporting it, whatever it might be, we had a hard time finding ways to consistently market to and reach out to those customers that we had already sold to service them, to upsell them in the future and regain revenue. Basically, most of our business relied on getting new installations. And naturally, there's always service work, and service work with the increase in abandoned systems is increasing right now. So we have lots of abandoned systems. You guys have already heard of all the different national installers and local installers that have been going out of business. And so as we have these abandoned systems become more and more common, that service department opens up. But as all of you know, most service work isn't the most high paying work. And that's where the Avalon can provide an additional market resource because it is a higher dollar item that can be added into systems as an AC coupled solution, as well as AC and DC coupled simultaneously. So let's say you have a homeowner give you a call. They moved into a house that has a 5 kilowatt system, AC system on the roof. Let's say they're running some microinverters. You would be able to go to that customer, and if they said, well, why isn't my power bill going lower? Is my system working? And you just evaluate that they are using more energy than the previous homeowner, right? They just moved in, they didn't build the system's producing as it should. That gives you the opportunity to go in and AC couple their existing solar, but then DC couple the new solar. So you can add on an additional 5-10 kilowatts into it, an AC and DC couple simultaneously, and then also offer the battery storage as an additional component there as well. So when it comes to service work, when it comes to updating and bringing old systems into the future, the Avalon's the perfect answer because they'll get that improved efficiency through the DC coupling. They'll get all of the advantages of the smart energy panel. So they're not just selling additional storage to that new client. They're selling smart energy management. They're selling EV charger capabilities. They're selling generator integration capabilities, all without external transfer switches and additional parts. And then, when we started looking even beyond that, the expansion of electric cars, along with the ease of install of a electric car charger with the Avalon, is a big advantage as well, because you'll be able to remarket to all of your Avalon customers because a car charger installation is as easy as landing the breaker in the smart energy panel, running the unit, and mounting it to the wall. Very, very simple. There's no sub panel involved. There's no main panel upgrade, nothing like that. Very simple, clean install, giving you more opportunities to return to the client and look for and recapture revenue from those clients.
Another part of the market that the Avalon allows you to capture, and this is a benefit more to the homeowner, but it is a benefit to the installer. The Avalon is equipped with VPP or grid services capabilities depending on your market. So when you come, I handle the eastern region for Fortress Power. So when you come into certain markets on the East Coast specifically, we're talking about Rhode Island, I'm talking about Massachusetts, I'm talking about Connecticut. There are significant savings that an installer can add to the homeowner. What does that mean? That means the cost of the system, even though the cost of the system is higher, the reward and the payback of the system is very, very inexpensive because you're cutting off years. So having a product like the Avalon allows you to dive into markets that can benefit the homeowner and provide substantial savings. So when I look at a market like Connecticut, their program, the Avalon, is in that program, the CTESS. It actually pays the installer the money, then the installer provides the benefits to the homeowner. So it's allowing you now to bring down the cost because we mentioned dealer fees. Dealer fees going up. We talk about interest rates going up. But if you actually can utilize the battery more often through some of these utility saving programs, the Avalon can do that. In addition to the Avalon being capable of doing that, Fortress Power has a wonderful program called Energy Broker, where literally all you do is log on to the Energy Broker page, you put in your states, and we list out all the programs for you. So no longer do you have to figure out what program is available. We have that all in an umbrella in our energy broker program. So the Avalon allows you to go into VPP markets. Obviously, that's incumbent upon the states that you're in, but that is available and that stuff is growing more and more every year. So those are some of the ways that the Avalon helps you expand your market. Would you like to add anything, Brad, or would you like me to go to the next slide?
No, I think that was a pretty good synopsis. I mean, the only thing I'd add there is we are starting to see more utility interest on VPPs. Naturally, California with Energy Broker, it's basically a big VPP, and the Avalon naturally has an answer when it comes to virtual power plant and creative utility setups with storage. Whether they're looking for peaker or integration or whatever it might be, the Avalon is sophisticated enough to be able to blend, communicate with the grid, and function as it should in those ecosystems and those virtual settings.
Yeah, and one of the things that I do want to note, part of the reason that there's advantage of having the high cycle capability is because when a virtual power plant of these utilities want to tap into your batteries, having higher life cycles, you don't have to worry about the battery being tapped into on a consistent basis because this is actually designed and built around those capabilities to be able to high cycle the battery. So that is one thing that is key. Now, as we wind down, we want to talk about some of our education and training that we have available with the Avalon. So what you see in front of you is our training portal. Well, not training portal. This is our website, and this is where training happens. So if you notice, we have highlighted training. If you click there, and it gives you information. One of the key things that I want to point out is some on demand webinars. So if you ever miss a webinar, a lot of times you can go back in, register now. It's just giving us our information, but then you can go see some of the trainings in the past. Because I know a lot of times it might not be convenient for your schedule, but the information is impactful, and we don't want you to miss out on the information. So you have the ability to get some on-demand webinars and replays of that information. We try to make sure that we have what we need accessible to you in many different modalities, whether we put it in LinkedIn, whether we put it in YouTube, whether we bring it to you in a webinar setting. We just want to get the information out there. And that's why we created the Avalon Answer, because we know a lot of people are proficient in batteries in some way because you're a solar installers and most people following us understand batteries. But we want to help you think differently when it comes to how to sell this to give you more avenues to sell. These are some of the upcoming webinars that we have. Again, they're listed. If you see right here in the middle, you can get a replay of the Avalon Answer webinar. And then there's a new webinar coming up on March 5th. It's called Make Your Install a Breeze. And we'll talk in some of the benefits that we didn't want to dive in, how the Avalon makes your install easier. And we actually have some training in Espanol, Spanish. So for some of those bilingual customers. So we try to have a nice training landing spot where you can get replays on our information because again, we want to give it to you in different modalities what make life easier. The other piece is our training resource where we have our Avalon training. So if you look, there's a QR code here on the bottom. I'm going to leave it up there. You can go into the training portal. It'll take you right to the Avalon training, and you can go through at your own pace. There's a status bar. It'll help you get through all that information to get to the training portal. Now, Brad, I know you were a guinea pig, so to speak, in the training portal. Describe a little of your experience in going inside of our training portal.
Yeah, so once you're actually um, behind the wall there and you've created your login for the training portal, you'll see all sorts of different bundles. And so, for example, the that first one that you can see in the top left there, Avalon installation and commissioning, that'll go through, teach you how to do all the commissioning, become certified in the Avalon. And then you have all the additional resources if you felt like there wasn't something that was completely covered in the course to the degree of specificity that you're looking for, or you need a little bit help, we have the additional resources to help along the way as well, just to make sure that you have everything you need to be able to confidently install the Avalon system, because we do know it's a slightly different installation process with the smart energy panel.
Okay, so as we dive a little deeper in, there's a couple questions that I wanted to kind of address. We had one from Lotus. Lotus. It says, how to keep outdoor batteries warm in cold climate. Brad, would you like to answer that question? How can you do that?
Yeah, so I am not, let me preface this with I'm not the technical wizard. I'm more on the sell side, but we do have active heating in the batteries. So on that side there where you saw the of the batteries where all the connections happen, you can actually connect the heater from battery module to battery module, and it will actively heat the batteries to make sure it stays within a healthy parameter for that battery's life cycle.
Yes, so having the active heating is one of the ways that we help solve the problem because it's rated to outdoors. Now, when we talk about having an outdoor battery, what are the advantages? Because you can build a shed and you don't have to build a huge heater box or something outside of the battery to add to the system. So when you have the Avalon, that's how it assists you because it is an IP65 enclosure. It is designed to go outside. So it does give you those that I would say comfortability of having a solution that is designed outdoor. Now, the Avalon is not designed to be submerged, but that's one of the ways because you go and set inside the Avalon, there's a temperature range where the Avalon battery actually will keep on and keeping the battery warm. So that's kind of like how we deal with the Avalon in outdoor situations. There's another question. It seems to be a lengthy one. Let me just kind of read through it. See
So I've
here.
had a jump on this one, Michael. So basically, looking at the cost of the Avalon and other materials, they're worried the install price will be $80 to $100,000, and so from the economic standpoint, who to market to and different things like that. And now the first thing I'd recommend here is to reach out to your regional sales rep. They're going to understand your market really well. I can tell you right now though that I have, since it's DC coupled and covers that PV inverter and does cut down on installation time, I do have installers offering the Avalon system with 10 kW of PV starting in the $40,000 range. So much more in the mainstream type price range. Um, like I said, I'm happy to talk about your any specific project, or like I said, you can reach out to your regional sales rep as well to get more details there. But like I said, I have seen the Avalon priced far lower than that 80 to $100,000 price range.
Yeah, I would say that in general, and this is just being honest with you. We know that solar and battery is an investment. We understand that. But I can tell you the value that the Avalon can bring to the homeowner that is looking to make this type of investment is great. It's a pretty large, I would say, value because of all the features that you can add and also the warranty that can be provided with having the battery. Because when you look at a 15-year warranty, you look at 8,000 life cycles, you look at having a heated battery, you look at a battery that actually has fire protection built inside of it. You're looking at a battery that has LFP chemistry, tier one automotive cells. So you're looking at something that is going to cost money, but beyond you got to look at the value that it brings to the homeowner's life. When I look at it, just traditional ways of adding value to someone and looking at the cost of that, there will always be a cost, right? We can't avoid that. But can the value of the system change the life of the homeowner and what it brings? So, someone that is looking to invest in energy storage, pound for pound, I will stack the Avalon energy storage system up against any system because of the value that it brings. Because when it looks at yourself as an installer, a lot of the AC combining is already built into the system. It's designed around that. When you look at load shifting and getting more bang for your buck, it already has the load shifting in that product. When you look at being able to add energy to or more capacity to a system, it's built that way with smaller modular building blocks. So it is adding a lot of benefit to someone that is looking to invest in energy storage. But we have analysis, we have things that we can help you. Ron, if you would like to, if you go by Ron, or I don't know if you go by Ronald or Ron, but you could definitely reach out to us and we can kind of walk you through a system and help you with an analysis. Another benefit, I know we have our Avalon training resource page up, but if you need help with a proposal, we have partnered with companies that can help you design a proposal to help you get more professional. We have a link, it gets preloaded with the Fortress Power product. Then you have the ability to put in the panel manufacturer that most people would probably use from around the United States. So I would say we can help you present yourself in a way to work out the economics for a homeowner to see. So that's one of the advantage of working with us is that we want to help you through the whole part of it. And that's why we've partnered with some third party operations to help you do some of those financial analysis. I don't see any more questions. Is there anything that you would like to add to the conversation, Brad?
I think we covered the main points for expanding your market. So, I really want to just emphasize here to start to wrap up here that the Avalon can help your sales reps solve new problems for their clients. And if they're stuck on the bill swap mentality, feel free to reach out, schedule a training, and we can kind of help open up the door to not just get the bill swap clients, right? There's always going to be a place in the industry for net metering, but also expand that market into solving other problems for your clients. Yeah, so if you join us next time, we're going to talk more about the installation process and how the Avalon saves you time and money on the site, and then how the Avalon can save you time and money once you've left the site. We'll make sure we bring in Geo because I'm sure there's going to be lots that the next webinar will probably be a little bit more technical than this webinar. But like I said, once again, we're going to go over how the Avalon can save you time and money on the site, and then how the Avalon can save you time and money off the site as well.